Everybody, this is Prairie from Companion, episode 6.
All right, beauty. Gentlemen, good to be back.
Yeah.
Listeners, viewers, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again. This is now episode 6 of the Prairie Film Companion podcast.
Arby just barked because he was like, hey, but didn't you have a couple episodes in between episodes?
That's right. So it's like the 7th or 8th one.
It's the 12th episode.
I don't know. The 6th together episode.
Yeah, it's like Fast and the Furious movies. Do you include like Hobbs and Shaw and all those other movies that weren't part of the canon because we didn't have Vin Diesel or Paul Walker,
rest his soul.
Tokyo
Rest in
Drift?
peace.
Yeah,
You look
Tokyo,
like Paul
Is
Walker.
that considered?
Thank you.
Yeah, right?
Tokyo Drifters is called something else.
Yeah, it would have been Paul Walker's, I think, 52nd or 53rd birthday today.
Wow.
Yeah, just like right into
Timothy Oliphant's like 52 or something.
Mhm.
Oh, but
It's
elephants live pretty long.
really well. Oh.
All right.
How you gentlemen doing?
I'm
Yeah,
great.
let's start with that. That's good.
Why do they always say gentlemen? What if you're not?
Gentle.
Very
If you're not
gentle.
gentle, I feel like I can be gentle sometimes,
Yes.
and then really an asshole other times.
Yeah.
Asshole man. How are you?
How are you
today?
asshole men doing today?
Or gentle asshole men.
I'll start.
That's only if your asshole is gentle.
No.
If when you fart, it just goes.
That's not the one I wanted.
I like
but
it. I like
that's
it.
the one
It's
where you-
quiet.
I'll start. I had a weird day because it was busy because I was just messaging a lot of people about a lot of different projects from my phone. So I woke up early, usually go for a run, but instead there's just tons of messages to get to. And I responded to all of them for about 2 hours straight. It was not ideal because it's not the way I like to start a morning. And I felt like, I don't know, I felt like less of a human being after. I was like, I've been so used to walks and runs in the morning that I felt like I was on this different plane. Weird. And then I went golfing
Oh, fun.
to the driving range with a friend, and that was good to get my head clear. But I could feel, I'm like, oh, I had to, get that detail, respond here. And it was weird. So
Right.
I don't know. I feel like a cyborg.
I know what
right
you
now.
mean. I've had so many days in the edit suite, as you know,
Mm.
and then I'll spend an entire day just hunched over the computer, and then I'll be like, I want to go see people, but I don't know how to be a person right now.
Yeah.
You try to start L-cutting people somehow.
I have been color correcting, and I've been going through the world being like, oh, the blues are kind of like intense in the shadows. But I've also just been mainly noticing how like lovely the world is balanced.
Right? Like it doesn't need correction.
Yeah.
Even like, of course, sunsets and all that.
I think
but like
the world
trees,
could use some correction right now.
Just
point.
film your next documentary in black and white, and then you don't have to worry about color correction.
Tony
Honestly,
Kaye.
yes.
Good
I've thought
point.
about that too.
A look at the lighthouse, filmed in black and white.
That's not a
Great movie.
documentary, though.
It's not.
Was
is
it?
We'll get to that in a second. Sorry, I want to hear how the rest of you guys are doing. Edmund, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm pretty relaxed.
Sorry, right into the mic. Right into the mic.
I'm pretty relaxed. Yeah. I kind of had an interesting day where, a lot of you out there know how I like to swim. I usually swim after work from 5:30 to 6:20. But today I went swimming from 7 o'clock to about like 8:40ish. I had to
AM?
leave. Yeah, AM.
7 o'clock to 8:40 ish.
And then
Intense.
they opened up the hot tub again at my gym, so that was nice. So I'm in the hot tub relaxing, and then all of a sudden I hear the door open because it leads to the change room, and then I'm like, oh, who is that? And then I see one of the employees pouring like whatever it is, like chlorine or whatever, like just nonchalantly while I'm relaxing, and I'm like,
Into the hot tub?
yeah, while I'm sitting in it, and I'm like,
Ugh.
oh, like shouldn't the guy have like said, hey, I'm just gonna pour some chlorine or whatever chemical agent while you're sitting in the hot tub relaxing? Like it would have been nice other than
Yikes.
just, he was kind of creepy and just poured some mysterious substance. I don't know.
Did
what
it
was.
bubble did it bubble like a cauldron?
No, it didn't.
Are
Did it
you
go
pregnant now?
No,
like
maybe the
pregnant?
opposite. He's sterile now.
If only.
Yeah, I don't know.
He
Sorry,
like
Edmund.
walks up to you and was, this isn't chlorine.
Yikes. Wow. That's creepy though.
Yeah, like
Did he
Yeah.
say anything to you?
No, he just like went in there and like poured
And just looked right
walked
into
out.
your eyes? I was like,
Didn't blink once.
Yikes.
Yeah, it would have been nice if he said something like, "Hey, I'm just pouring some chlorine." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's your job."
How are the Jets?
Ooh, I miss Jets.
They're
My
pretty
butt.
nice.
How
Yeah,
are the Jets?
you feel them all over.
When I was a little
Mm.
kid, we had the
All over.
weird luxury of we had an indoor hot tub, and we didn't have like an impressive McMansion or anything, but my dad, before he settled down and had a wife, like installed a hot tub in the basement. So like
That's
until I
cool.
was like 8 or
Wow.
9, we had this giant hot tub.
What happened to
Whoa.
it?
It keeps, if you have a hot
Wow.
tub inside,
It's
and
a lot
in
of
general,
maintenance.
there are a lot, and if they leak, it's fucked when it's inside, right? So
Oh,
it
that's
wasn't
unfortunate.
economic after a while.
Mm-hmm.
After a while.
After a while.
Good to hear you're back in the hot tub. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
I know you thrive in that, so I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Moving along, Andy, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. I was walking home yesterday, walking my dog. We'd had quite an adventure. I was in a good mood. And I was walking down this alley just off 99th Street here and had Arby off leash. And as we were crossing behind this building, I looked up and noticed that in this parking lot behind the building was an old man. And he was looking straight up. Not straight up, but he was looking up maybe 40 degrees into the sky behind me. And he saw Arby, and Arby smelled him. He didn't pay him any mind. And then I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he just went. And I looked behind me, and I was like in the sky, and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "It's Jupiter."
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Look above that apartment building roof, right where it points. Just go up there. That really big, bright thing in the sky there is Jupiter."
Whoa.
And I was like, "Holy shit!"
That's so
Well,
cool.
was it really Jupiter or?
Yeah. And he said, and if you go about a fist's length from Jupiter, that's 10 degrees, and up a little bit, you can see Saturn. It's a little bit yellower.
With your
Whoa.
bare eyes.
With your bare
And were you able to see it?
Absolutely. They were way bigger
Wow.
than stars. They were bright as hell. He had his binoculars, and he was looking in them, and he said, "You can see 3 of Jupiter's moons right now." I was
Oh.
like, "What?" And so I looked, and it was like, they were really powerful binoculars, but it was just like a bit wobbly. So then he's
Right.
like, "Come here, lean up against this tree." And so
Oh.
we were in the crook of this tree with these binoculars, trying to count. It was incredibly hard to focus, holding still, trying to really mitigate your breathing so it doesn't jostle you around. I was holding my breath a lot of the time. And then also to focus your eye, try to bring your eye to a laser point.
Yeah.
And I could kind of see that Jupiter was kind of misshapen, a little bit almond shaped, but it was too blurry for me to really count that there were
Right.
3 moons. But he could, I guess,
That's amazing.
tell. And
he had binoculars or
yeah, he had this
telescope?
really powerful set of binoculars.
Did
Wow.
y'all start singing Drops of Jupiter?
He whispered that in
me.
He was actually the lead singer.
Sailor
Yeah.
Jupiter, Sailor,
Sailor
Mercury, Sailor
Mars.
Mars.
Oh, speaking of which,
I know I got it wrong.
that was the first drop I put in. Never had a means to use it until now.
It's pretty good.
Running from a real height. She is the one named Sailor Moon.
Okay, but wait,
I
this
totally butchered that song. Sorry, Sailor Moon fans out there.
we're gonna get sued. Okay, the story's not quite done.
Oh,
Then
yes.
then he said
Oh.
it was amazing to see them. It was like a rare thing that you could see both of them close.
I want to see Uranus.
Yo.
Well, that's too far away. Thank God. And he said at 8 p.m. tonight, it was like 7 p.m. at the time. If you look straight east, you can see Mars rise,
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
That's amazing.
like sunrise, moonrise, Mars rise.
Wow. Would it be larger than like Jupiter and the other one?
It is. It's larger than those two
Whoa.
because it's so much closer, and it's got this like orange glow to it. Apparently,
Oh.
That's nuts.
yeah. And apparently,
Wow.
it rises to the east right now, and it'll cut like a pretty shallow orbit around our night sky and set.
Damn.
You guys want to check it out right now?
Could we see it right now?
You probably could see it right
Really?
now. Yeah.
Oh, that's
This was
risky.
last night, It's probably doing the same thing tonight.
Well,
Yeah.
it's gonna
Doing
be
a
darker
podcast.
later on.
And he's like,
I know we're in the middle of filming and recording.
we could
We're
pause.
on air.
Did you have anything else to add to that story?
Yeah, just that.
Yeah.
Just that. When he said, if you want to get a good view of it, look straight down the road, because that points directly east, and you can kind of see it creeping up.
Whoa.
He said, but don't go in the streets because the trees are still growing over so much. Go in the back alleys because they're all cut because the garbage trucks have to get through.
Yeah.
Whoa,
that
that's
makes
nuts.
sense.
And what was the
Yeah.
name of that old man?
Hubert.
Gandalf.
And now you know the rest of the story.
I wanted to add on to that. Not that there's a story to add, but recently I've been thinking to myself, how does Andy get himself into these like cool stories? And I think part of it is like you're just like open and willing to talk to anybody. So it's like, oh, hi. And then there's that like your warmth is enough to start a conversation like that. And I was thinking about that today. Well, not just today, but yesterday as well. I was like, I want to be more like Andy around people. Because usually out and about, I'm just like sad, quiet me.
A real
like,
moody grump.
yes, very much so.
I don't think that anybody said that about you, Drew.
Yeah, you're fairly positive.
You have a sunny.
Anyways, I thought about that the other day. I was like, what if I just said hi to somebody? And I can't remember, like I think I started a conversation with somebody that did, and it was because of you.
Oh, thanks. Oh, that's very nice to hear. I said that deserves a. Thank you. It doesn't always go well. I said hi to this couple. I think it was yesterday as well. I was walking RB down White Ave, and this couple. I did say nice tits, but it was to the guy.
Okay, well then that's
I just passed them and I said hi, but I said it like this. I said it like.
hi.
I said hi. It kind of went up, and it was really soft. Hi.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Hi.
I think the lesson there is say hi more and
But
smile.
yeah, practice saying hi.
Practice it. Definitely. Okay, sorry, yes. Dear Kyle Edward Ball, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I finished filming, not editing or publishing, but filming Nightmare 37 today.
Very
cool.
nice. Very nice.
Hey.
Round of applause.
Have you ever gotten fake
None of
blood
those
all
are.
over a bathroom? Because let me tell you, it's a doozy to clean up. 'Cause
Better
it's
than
getting
real
a
blood,
mess.
though.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like real blood would be easier. I don't know.
It's just the moral weight of it.
so in theory, real blood could stain, and fake blood, because it's sugar and soluble. In theory, if you
Right.
just use water, it will not stain anything, but it can
interesting.
still get into cracks and dry. So
What about menstrual blood?
I don't know. That's
actually
just
the best
blood.
to use because it's kind of watered down by all the
Yo.
eggs
right.
dissolving.
Yeah.
These we
there-
are
there's nothing
definitely
wrong
not
with
the
menstrual
podcast to
blood.
No.
You don't think we're experts on menstrual
the
blood?
liquid of life.
Speak for yourself,
The liquid
Gerardo.
of life.
You're right. You're right.
And that's
It's not a curse.
It is not. Why'd you bring? Anyways,
What's not a curse? Menstrual blood's not a curse?
Kyle.
Yeah,
Kyle.
not a curse.
You heard it here
What
first,
else?
folks. Menstrual blood is not a curse.
Oh,
Kyle, how else are you doing?
I'm good. That's it.
Okay, good. Yes. Awesome.
I saw Tenet with you. couple nights ago.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
nice.
That's
That's pretty
Yes.
hot.
What's
It was
that
a
called
good
again?
date.
Tenant? Is it about a tenant? A tenancy
Tenants.
dispute?
Yeah, I saw Roman Polanski's The Tenant.
I didn't know
That's
that film
it.
existed.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
How do you pronounce tenant backwards?
Tenant?
Whoa. Okay, yes.
Palindromes.
We will start off with our first topic, one of two topics. For those who don't want to listen to the beginning half, because I know there's some controversy out there in regards to the film Tenet. We will
It's
start
not
with
the Passion
Tenet.
of the Christ.
Wait,
It's just
We will start with Tenet, and then we'll go into our second beefier topic, documentaries, which I'm also excited about. And we have a nice little insight into that process with our dear friend Andy, which we'll get to shortly.
In short, don't do it.
Yeah. Best advice.
I'll make Marvel
Best
films.
advice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. A lot easier.
stick to your Marvel films. Don't
Stick
dip
to
your toes in
the roads and the waterfalls you're used to. That's not
Yeah.
how it goes.
That's a
but
beautiful line. Did you make that up?
I think I did. I wrote that for Beyonce.
Wow. I
Moving
didn't know you're a poet.
right along.
Beyonce. That's
Tenet.
TLC. Okay.
Tenet.
So what I wanted to do here is kind of give everyone a chance to speak about how they feel about it now. I think a few of you guys, Edmund, Andy, have had a lot of distance from your first viewing. Well, I guess your only viewing, right?
Oh, only viewing.
Only
I
viewing.
didn't see it in 4DX.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry you didn't. But I want to start with that, and then we can maybe talk about how it's viewed, how it's perceived, did it save cinema, all of those wonderful, big, and beautiful topics. Does anyone... Oh, before I guess we move on, spoilers, right? If you haven't seen Tenet, we're going to talk about it all.
You should probably do the horn sound effect.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert, it's the same universe as Twilight. He's Edward Cullen, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Pattinson is
I
Edward
would
Cullen
love
reprising
that.
the role.
I would
Didn't
respect
we
that.
wait? Didn't we say when we were talking about it after we watched it, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was the same as this universe? Like,
Yeah, if
and
like
then we-
Nolan made a cohesive...
no,
universe.
Memento. At the end of it,
Right.
Guy Pearce shows up with all those tattoos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
that would have
don't
been
know.
cool.
That
Kind
would've
of
And
been
he's
like
awesome.
walking backwards. Who am I? Where am I? I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing.
Yeah. That would've
Yeah,
been
or maybe
awesome.
they could
Are you
do
my
like
mom?
like the Avengers thing, right? Where after the credits they have like some sort of extra scene and
Yeah.
This is
You
a
know.
grown-up movie, though, so they're not going to do that.
Oh,
Let's go.
Shots fired. Do the gun one as well.
Take
Stanley is
that.
turning
Take
in his grave.
that.
Is he dead? Is Stanley
Yeah,
dead?
Yes, he is.
I know.
Good riddance, I say. I'm a DC man.
Oh.
Ooh, that was
Who is,
nice.
who is it? Kirby? Is he
Jack
a-
Kirby,
DC?
baby. I don't
Yeah.
actually. I'm
Yeah,
not
he-
loyal to
yeah, he passed
anything.
away like 1994, long time ago.
Jack
with
Kirby
the
or
program.
I don't like those superhero
Well, okay,
comics.
What
Wait,
was
wait,
Stanley's
wait.
last name? I never got to that.
Lieberman.
Give me Garfield.
Probably. wait, okay. Let us come back
So Tenet, right?
time.
Tenet.
In
Tenet.
time.
What I want to hear. Well, Kyle and I will step back for a bit. I want to hear how you guys have lived with it for the 3 or so weeks since you've watched
I
it.
haven't been able to live with myself for having seen it. I hated it so much.
Ooh.
That's
Oh,
right. Anthony Gertz, resident grump on the show, everybody. I thought as I was watching it, what's this gobbledygook? I have a headache. I'm
I
going
feel
to...
like the table's properly defined. Wait, spoilers.
I thought it was quite a thrill. I thought it was very fun. I thought it took a lot of brain energy to follow what was happening, and everybody was talking very cool. And but I thought it was quite a thrilling ride, and so much of the time my eyes were just wide open, like the scene in Clockwork Orange. But I didn't need the machines because my attention was just wrapped on the screen, and the soundtrack. It was like a bodily experience. I just felt like this fun fear the whole time. Like I was just, I don't know, it's just like pure espionage. And
That's cool.
the soundtrack rocked me to the core.
Mm-hmm. And wait, what format did you watch it in?
I watched it in stunning 70 millimeter IMAX,
Nice.
babies and gentlemen. Yeah, it was quite worth it. And ladies.
Yes, because there's one woman that watches this too. Edmund.
I think the movie would have been a lot better if I saw it in 4DX because when I watch movies,
Okay, that's enough.
like,
turning
I
down
don't-
your mic right now.
when I watch movies, I just don't like to watch the movie. I like to experience the movie.
It's called watching a movie. That's how you
But
know.
wait.
I want to experience the weather. I want the force feedback and my chair to kick me and my popcorn off the chair.
Just as a discretion, the last time we watched it, and I think we mentioned this in the previous podcast, when Edmund and I and a few others here. Wait, no, you guys didn't come to Busan, did you?
No.
No, okay. We watched Train to Busan in 40X, and the seat literally launched Edmund 4 feet in front of him and spilled all of his popcorn. He was so thrilled. He got back up with such joy, sat back down, enjoyed the rest of the film as if nothing happened. I hadn't laughed so hard
my God.
in such a long time.
Did
And
the
I think
Benny Hill music start
I
playing?
think the people in the row in front of us got hit by my projectile popcorn because I had the popcorn in the chair like right beside me, right, just to give myself more space so I didn't hold it. But I guess there's a scene in Train to Busan Presents, I forget the name. Peninsula, thank you. Where this girl kept on drifting and drifting and drifting or maybe it was a fight scene, and I guess the oomph was so powerful that in the 4DX theater the chairs moved because there's vibration feedback. But anyways, yeah, with Tenet, everything that Andy just said, it's a visually beautiful movie from the opera house in Russia when they're going about that siege and they go in as counter-terrorists.
That's in the Ukraine.
Right.
Ukraine. Sorry,
is,
I think it was in Kiev.
No, I think it's in the Ukraine. They say later on in the film.
Kiev is a city in their Ukraine.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. A beautiful movie. Lots of tension. I think the only weak part for me was at times I couldn't understand what they were saying. So I'm not sure if it was an issue with the audio in the theaters, but it's an IMAX theater, so it's usually of the highest audio visual caliber. So probably an issue with the sound mixing, but I'll probably buy a copy of the movie so I can watch it again with the subtitles turned on so I can figure out what they were saying. But yeah, it is a very cerebrally involved movie. When I was watching the film, I was trying to figure things out. But yeah, it's a beautiful movie. I'd watch it again. Maybe I'll have a better appreciation for it because I have a better understanding of what's happening and what they're saying.
Right.
So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, great takes. Okay. I was with you two gentlemen when I had seen it first and again, IMAX. I was very taken by it as well, but I have since seen it again with our dear friend Kyle.
Oh, hi,
So
Kyle.
I want to give Kyle the floor to speak his thoughts.
Because I have kind of a dissenting opinion on this. So I remember when I saw Inception in the theater and just being blown away by it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Being blown away by it. And my friend, I went with my friend Devin, and she's like, oh, I think this is going to be like the Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Tenet, I would say on the whole, I liked it. If I was Roger Ebert, I'd give it 3, maybe 3.5 stars. But I was disappointed for a few reasons. Okay, so right off the bat, things I liked about it. The hero was great and fun and different and funny. The sound design I actually thought was great. I think whoever did the sound design for it deserves the Oscar. Like, I thought it sounded amazing. Just the cool stuff of little undertonalities of like, here we have a song, but I'm going to have a little bit of sound design that's going backwards and stuff. Like, I loved that. I liked how international it was. It was almost like a grown-up version of a James Bond kind of feel to it. I thought the stuff in Norway was cool just because it had a interesting. Tenet feels very like going backwards, going forwards. It's a lot about polarity. And sort of the villain is a Russian from the former Soviet Union, and presumably the heroes are us, the capitalists, and kind of the intermediary is someone from the developing world, that Indian woman. So I thought it was interesting they chose Oslo, because Oslo, if you look at that city, it's either looks really gorgeous or really communist. And there's a part on a highway scene too where it's you see these cool groovy buildings and then just like bland. It's so Norwegian.
Right.
I would say though, a big also just before I forget it, when Michael Caine appeared, we almost got out of our seats and cheered, just because it was Michael. Like, we were just like, who is that? Because he talks before you see him, and
Right.
it's Michael Caine.
You want to be the Tenet?
And he puts a piece of art in a Harrods bag.
And he's kind of like the Stan Lee when he makes cameo appearances in Marvel movies.
Yeah,
Michael
that
Caine
distinguished.
makes his appearance in the
in
Christopher
Nolan
movie.
films. Is he in Inception?
Right, Spider-Man, with great responsibility comes great power.
That being said, so in this movie, they're trying to save the world, and the subplot is a story about a battered woman with an abusive husband who's trying to keep the relationship with her child. so the stakes are higher than Inception, but Inception, although the stakes are lower because they're really just doing something frivolous in regards to corporate espionage, and the subplot is just vaguely about his dead wife. I found Inception so much more moving and compelling, and just felt glued to it, as opposed to this. I felt like I really wanted more backwards moving action stuff. Like I felt, even though there's probably more action sequences in Tenet than Inception, and I thought like 30 or 40 minutes in, I'm like, okay, when do they start going backwards? And isn't that going to be cool? And it's like, I felt shortchanged. Like I thought like a good portion of the movie was going to be based around that. And I felt a little shortchanged. I didn't find the story with the villain and the wife compelling. Yeah, I felt shortchanged.
How much change did you get back?
Another thing too, like the parts that do go backwards are cool, but even then I felt like still felt like I was missing something. Like I wanted something a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little tough to follow exactly what's happening and in your mind say, okay, that's going backwards.
That I didn't have an issue with that. I almost wanted more. I wanted to be like actively confused more, like to have action sequences so complex and so backwards that you're like, what's going on now? That you're actively confused.
Right.
I didn't quite get that or feel that. I thought it was so stupid that the villain was Russian. Like that's just, again, so silly. James Bond. Like, come on.
If the shoe fits,
I get there's a
Kyle.
reason why they did that with, that's when the Soviet Union fell, atomic energy, blah, blah, blah. But I did feel shortchanged.
Mm-hmm.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah, no. That's good. I guess, yeah, my own opinion of it is I don't have too much difference from Andy and Edmund. I definitely feel some of Kyle's points of criticism, and even during it noticed it. Yes, like some of the dialogue is a little hard to listen to in a very loud mix or sound system.
I didn't find that at all. I understood them perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few.
Well, wait.
Yeah?
We need to give context to that because us three, Edmund, Andy, and myself, watched it in IMAX. Very loud, very hugely produced. It was very visceral, right? You guys would agree? You could feel it a lot.
Memorable.
Well, the second viewing when we saw it with Kyle, when I had seen it with Kyle, they had either taken a lot of that backlash and adjusted because the volume in this regular theater, not IMAX, was much lower.
It was noticeably quiet than
So
a typical
more
movie.
quiet than even like a drama or some sort of talking movie where you would expect not as
Like, it
much score.
Clearly the volume was low.
Exactly. Even the opening sequence when there's music and there's sound effects, it didn't feel like we were even present in the movie.
You could hear other people in the theater.
You could hear other people talking. And I remember leaning over to whisper to Kyle, and I was like, oh, I could be heard. Like my whisper is loud enough right now for a conversation to be heard. So I just wanted to preface whatever you were saying with there's a big difference in how we kind of watched it, and I was in between.
Yeah.
You want to watch it again, Andy, in the regular theater?
Only if they have it extremely quiet.
Or 4D,
sounds like
4DX.
5DX. It's inside your brain.
It's inside your ass. See, Showgirls on 4DX.
I guess all I wanted to like pepper my own opinion in this pool of gumbo we're mixing is that I was genuinely thrilled as well. I loved every moment of excitement, of set piece, all of the intrigue of, what's happening, who's doing what. For me, first time ground hit perfectly.
See, I didn't feel that at all in it. And like
that's fair.
Like I felt it mildly, but again, like, and okay, if the movie Inception had never existed, maybe I would have liked this more, but all
Right.
film critique is relative. And I just remember in Inception, like even in the boring parts, I was like, what the fuck is going to happen next? Like, I just loved it. Like, was not bored for a second.
Right, but let's stay with Tenet.
Mhm.
What is there? What we experienced?
I was
what we
bored a
went
few
through.
times.
That's okay. That's okay.
Mhm.
I was giving my own 2 cents on that. And all I wanted to finish up saying there was even like the plot twists, you could say, and when he runs into himself, these kind of aha moments that you expect to hit in a film. I was there. I was taken by it. I was like, oh, that's fun. I remember even another friend, we'd watched it with Chris, when he goes back and he's fighting himself in that scene that we revisit. I was like, oh, wow, shit, that's so cool. And Chris leaned over to me and said, oh, you're just figuring that out? And I was like, even if I am, fuck you. Like, I'm enjoying this moment.
Yeah.
Viscerally.
That's a cheeky thing to say
Yeah, I
while
was
you're
like-
watching a
And
movie.
then after the film, I had to like go on the defensive and be like, you didn't know that was them. You know? Okay, when Robert Pattinson throws himself down that hallway the first time we see it, we don't see who it is. Sorry, not himself. The main character.
The protagonist.
When-
they just call
when-
him the protagonist.
When Robert Pattinson
Yeah.
threw himself down the thing and then saw that it was himself, I knew that I was like, that is Edward Cullen from Twilight.
But wait, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't himself. It was the lead, or the protagonist.
Yeah.
So he's black all of a sudden.
I thought that was cool how when he has those conversations with his like kind of mentor in it, she says, "Oh, you're the antagonist. He's the protagonist. We have two." I thought that was so cool.
Oh,
and
the
meta.
scientist lady?
Yeah. How they?
the Indian
No,
lady.
the East Indian. How they literally just like injected that in, like, oh, but there has to be an inciting incident. Like, I thought that was neat, but I wonder if that's a detail that we just think is neat because we
because
make
it's Christopher
motion
Nolan
pictures.
and he plays around with plot in non-linear order, so he'll mention these terms.
I'll go fucking backwards.
One thing I wanted
Goes
to
fucking back.
challenge everybody that has a criticism about it. Oh, it's not as exciting. It's not, I felt shortchanged. What I want to kind of spend a bit of time with is like, what other film has played with time travel this way, where you're temporally watching something flow back through time, and then you're also watching repercussions of that play out in real time.
We thought when we were talking with Daniel, it was like, wait, that movie kind of did it.
Which one was that?
I forget.
I'm not too sure.
you
I'm not
describe
too
the
sure. He
movie?
A
brought one
movie
up.
where we're
I
kind
think
of
we were
making
just
fun
talking
of
about-
it. There's a Nicolas Cage movie called Next,
Oh, right.
but he
Oh.
doesn't. It's not actually like that. But I remember in the trailer he can kind of go back a bit and
Like 5 minutes or 7
Yeah.
minutes back in time or
Right.
something.
But
But
that's
that was different because he was going back in time.
No,
and
there
then
was
going
another
forward.
there was a good movie that I don't know.
Don't
and,
recall
like,
what he brought up.
That being said,
Back to the
I
Future?
appreciate that, but even in that context, I felt like I still wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think maybe as a film viewer, I'm a little spoiled in that way. That I see this incredibly inventive movie, and I'm like, it takes too long. I didn't like the character develop. Like, if this was like a Twilight Zone episode or something, it would be a masterpiece. But
Yeah, I feel like we are spoiled quite a bit. We're always waiting for something to like happen and go, and yet you can watch a Tarkovsky film for 3.5 hours that doesn't have much dialogue and is super slow. My point here is we give like attention and like forgive things because like, oh, this Nolan film isn't the best iteration of a thriller spy mega movie that we've seen. You said, oh, it was a more adult or better James Bond. Yes, I agree with that in ways, but why don't we say that about James Bond? We have no criticism of this storyline there. We just like to see him shoot stuff and do it, albeit super cool.
I would say the recent James Bond movies have gotten more mature.
That's a fair assessment for sure.
I think that, yeah.
Yes, but that's a good point that he's making because he's saying like, then why do we totally forgive James Bond movies for being boyish, swashbuckling, like nonsense.
Right.
Whereas Tenet, we think,
Yeah.
this should be smarter or something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for some reason, there's this Twilight Zone episode. It's not they go backwards, but it's just such a simple. If you look at it, the selling point of Tenet, it's actually quite simple, as far as an elevator pitch of it's an action, but like some people go backwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's such a I want to see that. That's so cool.
Oh, it's Fight Club meets sliding doors.
No. Okay. So, there's this Twilight Zone episode where a woman goes to wait at a like a rural bus station, and she's sitting like reading her paper, blah blah blah, and then out of the corner of her eye, she sees her doppelganger. And she chases after the doppelganger. She disappears, and then she's like, "Oh, whatever." And then the whole episode is just like her interacting with people at the bus stop, like, "Oh, but you already talked to me," and it's just this interesting story about her and this nefarious doppelganger,
That's
right?
so sweet.
And it's so simple, right? And very rudimentary special effects. And I felt like that was an idea of, that's an elevator pitch where I got the maximum benefit. And Tenet was an elevator pitch that it's just they kept stumbling, and I wanted more. Even when the big battle sequence at the end, there was some cool parts, like the part where they blow up the unblow up that building and then re-blow it up.
Right.
Which, like, I don't even care why they did it. It's just like,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like, that was like a part where I'm like, that's good. Like, you saw me in the theater. I'm
right.
like, that's cool.
Where they crash an actual 747.
I don't care about
That's
that
different,
whole.
though.
Okay,
He
but
does different what
anyways,
he's talking about.
Sorry,
But-
spoiler.
well, yeah, I don't like that whole. You know what? A big thing I don't like about Nolan, he's very elitist. Of I
You
want to
have to
do
crash a real
I want to
thing.
do the real thing, and it's like, okay, you can do the real thing because you're Christopher Nolan. I hate how these big filmmakers get so fucking elitist. Anyways, but Tenet felt like that's an elevator pitch, and there was so many parts where it's like I should never in a movie I really like say I would have done that differently.
I think you should always
Yeah.
say that because you're looking at it through your experience and your lesson.
Not
how you would
as
make it better.
I'm not just a filmmaker. I'm also a movie.
There are movies
goer,
that I
right?
watch that I
And
say, wow, I could make that better, but I still love it. I can make that scene look a little better because of
there's
how
a
I
bit
would
of a
approach it.
Venn diagram of that, but
So then why don't you have that same ethic towards, say, a James Bond movie or a
don't
fucking
give a
MCU
shit.
movie?
well,
I know.
here's
there's a
the
different
thing
investment.
though, because those movies already have. Again, it's all relative. Those movies already have a fairly low bar in general.
Not really. James Bond is one of the best-selling films
But
internationally.
when we were growing up, though, that's just numbers, though. So is Transformers sold very well. When we were growing up, that was the Pierce Brosnan era of James Bond. That was not the Dr. No sophisticated era of James Bond. So we lived through like the dark ages of James Bond, and
No
then
offense to Mr. Brosnan right now, but you are
not
getting
at all,
roasted.
not at all. He knows. He fucking knows. He's a Welshman, and then
Well, yeah, Die Another Day was pretty campy and
No, Die Today. It should have been called.
that hey Madonna, that was a great song.
yeah, that was.
I loved that movie. You guys,
You don't actually like that. Like even
I loved it. I
That-
rewatched it recently
It's
and I
the-
liked it.
it's the worst.
It's like I like Phantom Menace.
It's like Madonna doesn't even like that.
wish I died on
Another day.
Okay, wait. Let's get off of this. I like it because of this. I don't like it
know.
because of it. Let's
Can we just
shift.
move on to
No,
documentaries?
shh. You've had enough to say. I want to
Wait,
hear
so
what
are we
these
gonna
guys.
rewind?
I want to.
The rest of the episode is just like this.
Reflect, rewind effect. I wanted to ask just a couple of the details of the film to see what you guys thought. Something that obviously is really prominent in a lot of Nolan films, the clothing and the wardrobe. Just before I give my 2 cents about it, what did you guys get from
There was too much.
Too much clothing.
Notice
Not enough
anything at all.
less
What
clothing.
are you talking- They just wore
Gotcha.
like suits and shirts and shit.
Mhm.
Okay,
They must
fair.
have
That's a
huge
thing in
budget.
his movies, like the clothing.
Yeah, it's a
Dunkirk?
GQ.
Well, Dunkirk, that's a period piece. So,
Sure,
like,
Inception. Actually,
Interstellar.
Inception and Interstellar have
They're wearing,
custom-made clothing for it by the same.
but they're just
designer.
wearing suits and shit.
I mean, obviously, that's what it seems. I'm just asking everyone's opinion, Kyle. So I just wanted
It's just
to know
like
what you received from it.
they're just wearing suits and
Okay,
shit.
we know where you stand.
But they're
Edmund.
also wearing those cool suits. Those cool, remember tactical suits? Oh, this armor's so cool.
That just looked like riot gear, though, to me, kind of basically.
Extremely
like,
cool
sorry.
riot gear.
the masks.
It wasn't like
Well, okay, Edmund, did you have anything to bring up?
No. Looks like they always kept the clothes in good order. It was always creaseless.
wow.
And perfect,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
And the Oscar
like they
goes
just-
to
The dry cleaning shop down the road.
Yeah, it was
the
always-
Bounty
well,
Snug.
it's
Who's
always
the
clean,
bear?
right?
The
Well-
fabric softener bear.
If I may,
Downy bear?
The
I may
Oscar
put
goes
my
to.
2 cents to
It's
what I
actually called that
thought
because he has Down syndrome.
You're gayer
would
than
have
I
been
am.
I thought we were going to talk about this quite like academically and use our experience with it. I was going to say, not that this was a revolutionary use of wardrobe and I'm inspired to make clothing, but I paid attention to the clothing and what it had to say about the characters, and a lot of hints were given there that I saw the second time around,
Wow.
which I was really valuable.
Oh.
So if you look at the main character's clothing, it actually starts quite dark and then it gets very colorful and very bright as you
That's
see him
true.
go on. You see him walking. Every time you kind of see him walking with Robert Pattinson planning something out, you notice a shift. At first it's small, it's something like punchy. You'll see the color of his shirt underneath a bomber or something, and that has changed. And then by the end of it, when they're making kind of the final plans, then you see there's more color in his whole fit. The first time we see Robert Pattinson, it's kind of the opposite. He starts off light. The very first outfit we see when he meets him in Dubai, a light linen suit with light attire. So he's refined, but he's all almost white.
He
right?
meant to say Mumbai.
Sure. And as we progress, his clothing gets a little darker. And by the end of it, he's in a very, very dark suit, top to bottom. There's one scene in particular I wanted to draw attention to, which I don't see anyone really talking about, but I noticed it so much because I love picking out the quirks of an outfit. But there's a scene when the protagonist, who I don't know what his name is, and Robert Pattinson are walking down a British street.
We don't need to know their names, though.
I think it's to plan out the car chase, right? And they're saying, we need this, this, and this. It almost doesn't even really matter too
Yeah.
much what they're saying. But if you look at Robert Pattinson's tie when they're kind of walking side by side down the street, by this time his suit had gone a little darker. His pants are still light, but his jacket's darker. His dress shirt's darker. And if you look at his tie, it's actually split. It's like a normal tie, but it's two. And if you notice how tie a tie, you want the front portion to kind of be the thicker part, right? So that's what tied like a normal standard tie. This tie is kind of tied reverse.
Reverse.
Where the back end is up front. And what it does, it just splits the tie into two. So he's walking down the street, but the design is so brilliant because it looks effortless. It looks simple. It looks like he just rolled out of his professor class down the street and he's like, okay, I need to plan this out. And if you look at the split of the tie, it's already hinting at that. And I remember seeing that, and it was so subtle because it's dark against dark. But I saw the split and I was like, that's something. And in the moment, the first time I saw it, I didn't say, oh, he's in reverse and he's got it, he's clued into something. But the wardrobe of the film is showing you, which I will end on this.
Do you know why I got better throughout the film?
Who got better?
The clothes.
Why?
Because do you remember that scene when Michael Caine's like, save the world, and then we'll balance the books. Can I recommend a good tailor?
Oh.
Yes. Very good point.
This
So it's all
bitch
from
brought
Michael
a prop.
Caine.
Hold on to that.
If anyone wants his 3 digits at the back, I'll just hold up the password. So if you're watching
worry,
this on
Edmund.
video,
So,
Edmund,
can
where's
look
my
at that.
Harrods bag?
so already the 3 digits are. I'm kidding. I would do that to you. Obviously.
666.
Do y'all know? Okay, so you know the part where he's like, you brought like this Goya painting in a Harrods bag. Do y'all know what Harrods is?
Yeah,
Yes.
really.
It's a
expensive,
fancy
like,
ass
auction
department
house.
store in the UK.
I thought it was like a
auction house.
Sotheby's. Yeah, I thought it was like an auction house too.
No, it's a fancy ass, and you
Right.
can get
That was,
groceries ordered from them too. They're like Hudson's Bay Time a
I
billion.
think Princess
wow.
Diana's boyfriend, what was his name? Dodi Fayed, where she was killed.
Yeah,
in a car
sure.
crash. I think his family owned Harrods.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's it. You know what was interesting though too? Robert Pattinson's character also has that T-shirt that says "I'm going to go backwards and die" as a Christ-like figure in the end of the movie shirt,
I did not notice
which
that.
I think gave away a huge point. And the part at the beginning where the protagonist has that shirt that says Michael Caine's going to appear 30 minutes in. And it's like
I know you're
that-
making fun of me,
I'm
but I have
just-
one
I'm
more.
just
I have
razzing
one
ya.
more. I have one more.
I'm just
Because
razzing him.
you're not helping anyone trying to understand the movie, but I am.
Why
God
don't they just
damn it.
see the movie?
And this is a companion of some guys
guess-
in the prairies that watched it.
I
that
guess I
want to
just-
help them a fucking long. God damn it.
I guess, you know what? I guess I just have it.
Okay, so back to my point. I just muted Kyle so that he's not interrupting me anymore.
Sorry.
I'll bring him back out of respect. I was just thinking about it as well, and in the same vein of wardrobes changing, the mother's wardrobe or the woman
so
also
sharp.
changes. Not just changes in color, but think about the last piece we see her in just before she dives into symbolic freedom.
It gets more casual.
It's more casual.
Yeah.
It's a swimsuit, but it's also this floral shirt.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. I remember
Right.
being jealous of it. I was like, I'd like something like that. And then she just dives away into freedom after, of course, killing him and doing what she did.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that Twilight Zone episode where the woman sees a doppelganger, and then
Yeah.
in the movie, right?
Yeah,
the woman
oh,
is like,
yeah.
I
Right.
saw.
I kind
Yeah.
of, that was another part too where I'm like,
I
I
saw-
bet
who-
you
who's
the
that
woman
woman who
she
jumped
saw
off
on
the
the boat
ship?
is her. 'cause
No,
they
you
go
didn't.
back-
No, you
No,
didn't.
I'm
When you
sorry.
first saw
A
it.
good connection.
I'm
No. When
sorry.
you first saw it or later on?
When I first saw it, I thought,
How would you? What gave you any clue to that?
Because it's a movie where everyone's going backwards and shit.
we're too smart for this. Then you're too smart to watch movies.
No, I'm not.
How
What
come-
was I watched Twister last night, and there was some parts where I'm like, he did right.
Some people guess forward in movies. Some people
That's
don't.
Here's
true.
the thing. I'm not a person like that. So
You
many,
are.
I'm no.
Yes,
I'm
you
not.
are.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Name another movie we saw where I was like, I saw that.
Striptease.
Solo.
I haven't.
I knew
even
she was
seen
going to get
Striptease.
naked. I knew she was going to get naked.
Usually in movies, it's about
Showgirls.
50-50. Either I'm gonna get
Weekend
something
at
right, or I
Bernie's.
won't. I'm not. I'm not one of these people. And also in general with movies, I don't like to peek behind the curtain and try to figure out what's going on. I just like the movie to wash over me.
If I can just speak to that, but everything you've said is exactly that, peeking behind. Oh, I saw that coming. Oh, I knew that. Oh, I expected.
I'm not
more.
trying to be sneaky about that. Like I'm not trying to.
Sure.
Like I hate people like these people who like I have this movie figure out. I'm so much smarter than the people in the movie, which like they're two-dimensional beings, and the audience, and it's like they paid a ticket too. Like I've never been like that, and I don't say that from a I figured this out more than you. I did frankly see those parts coming.
Fair.
So.
Fair.
And I'm not one of those people who's like, I saw that coming. I've never been.
Even
like
though you
that.
just said that 3 different times. About
yeah,
3 different
about the
points,
same
but-
movie. About the same movie. Have I ever said that about a movie before? What was it?
2001: A Space Odyssey. Just kidding.
I got to let my dog go 1 sec. He's
You're
barking.
pulling that name out your. I have to pee too.
We could take a mini break here.
And then
I'd
and
like
then
some water.
Bum, 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 bum,
Okay,
bum,
break.
bum.
I'm gonna grab some water too. Ready?
Let's rewind and go. Okay, and then we'll talk about documentaries.
That was a horrible Tenet discussion.
I loved that.
That was horrible.
You're just like, oh, well, I don't like movies that don't excite me about everything.
Well, I do sound like that, to be fair.
You're watching Bait. What are we even doing here? What the fuck is going on? So what's going on in the debate?
I was just looking at the headline. Pure chaos at the first debate. Trump tried to steamroll Biden and the moderator. The Democrats' response, "Will you shut up, man?" And then
Is that what they actually said?
that's just a headline for the article talking about the highlights.
Oh boy.
Highlights. Donald, will you be quiet a minute? Biden said he repeatedly called out the president for attempting to bulldoze the debate, saying he wouldn't even try to fact check Trump's volley of untruths. Everything he is saying right here is a lie. Frustrated by the inability to carry a coherent thought, he broke into Trump's retorts at one point. Will you shut up, man?
Kind of feels like what's been going on
here's
at
a
this
1 minute.
very table.
Who's
Interesting.
Biden and who's Trump?
No one will know.
Are we the moderators? You're that guy. You're Sean, whatever. Wallace.
Is Joe Rogan moderating it?
We're gonna lose. All right, let's get back to this. Someone's phone is in the bathroom. Someone grab it.
Oh, right, that's mine.
Why did you do that?
He's filming you.
Okay, so we're still recording? I just want to bring up one little thing.
Wait, about the film or what?
Yeah. About
Well,
Tenet.
so these guys are good.
I have 2 more points about Tenet.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were
I
just
hated
gonna
it
say you
so
didn't
much.
like it.
I would say I liked it. I did not.
How many different ways can you?
I did not.
dislike it.
I did not love it. And here's the thing. I've actually seen. I really like Christopher Nolan. I think he's great. I have a few stories. Number 1, there's a part where the villain drinks vodka and pours vodka straight into a cup. And I leaned over to Gerardo and said, "That's me." And he said, at normal volume, because as we established, the volume was low in the movie. That's like you in the podcast. And another point, when we first talked about the movie after we saw it with our friend Daniel outside the theater, the conversation was much less heated than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's to account for that.
Those about the movie. I thought you had 2 points about the movie.
And then I had another point which I forgot. In film school, we all had to do a presentation on our favorite director. I did Hitchcock, got 90%.
Wow.
One really odd girl did Christopher Nolan, and she did. You know when you do what's it called when each letter represents a word?
Acronym.
She did an acronym for Christopher Nolan. So her presentation was for Christopher Nolan.
Was this in grade 3 film school?
Yeah, that's another. She was the only one who did it. Did an acronym, right?
Did you get A+?
I don't
Gold
know.
star.
I don't know what her grade was. So she started. You'd think, okay, she did one for Nolan. No. She wrote Chris and wrote like, I don't know, charisma for CH, like.
Are you serious?
And then
H
okay,
for hot.
I'm not done. At some point she got to like Christoph and then turned to the class and like stood there and then kept going. She did a word for Christopher Nolan.
Yo, do you remember all of them?
Hopefully she's not.
I don't remember any of them, which is the exact opposite of what an acronym's supposed
Much
to do.
like in a Christopher Nolan, I need clarification on this plot. She had an acronym for the word Christopher and then not for Nolan. What?
No. The whole CH and then Nolan. So like how many letters is that? His full name. If he had a middle name, I'm sure she would have done words for that too.
Okay.
Nolan, the N in Nolan, the O in Nolan, all of it. Christopher.
But you don't remember
Nolan.
any of them.
No, I don't.
Hopefully she's not listening to this podcast. Otherwise, her feelings
She's
might be
not.
very hurt.
And if she is, I don't care.
We'll send it to her.
Yeah, and it's a cool project. It's really actually really cool. Like I'm
Very
in grade
smart.
3 in a good way.
Shout out to you, Kyle's classmate from grade 3.
I don't
Shout
think
out to
anyone
you.
else did. I think maybe the guy who did Wes Anderson did one for Wes as a like a fun thing, but like that's just 3 words.
Wacky, eccentric.
Yeah,
Sexy.
that's probably what he did.
Yeah.
He probably got a good mark.
Okay. Anything
A+ for
less
both of
to
them.
add to Tenet? Your thoughts, your feelings?
The Tenet is. Can I use this, Edmund?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So one fun thing that I read after Tenet was that a lot of the names are based on this thing called the Sator Square.
Oh.
That's interesting.
So the Sator Square, also known as the Rotus Square, is this square. There are 5 Latin words, and it's arranged in a square. So the first 5 letters on the very top, Sator, Sator. Then down there it says, the next line says Arepo, Arepo. In the middle says Tenet. Below Tenet it says opera. Below opera it says rotas. These are all Latin words. And it is the same forwards, backwards, and top and bottom.
Oh.
It's insane the way it
That's
works.
cool.
The way that word Tenet goes through the middle on both axes, and all of those words have meaning and are in the film.
Yeah, they're pretty much palindromes.
Yeah, Rotaz is the name of the shipping company, and you see it on the side of some of the containers.
Oh.
Sator is the name of the villain. Tenet is the name of the movie. The first scene is at an opera.
Opera.
And Arepo
Whoa.
is a character's name, or I forget what Arepo is in the film.
Repo.
It's been so long,
he
those
the
3 weeks.
Special forces guy.
Huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
could
sounds
be.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked how
Wow.
in the movie it's not the United States versus the Soviet Union. It's just like vague military force. We don't know who it is. It could just be an intergovernmental agency. So it's not so, it's the States, the good guys versus Russia, the bad guys. It's just a move. It's just it's very supranational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially
Yeah.
since we live in this day and age where, like, who's really good and who's really bad. What is the truth? So much uncertainty, so much conspiracy.
Yeah. We don't live in a post-truth world. We live in a post-trust world. I'll tell you what I trust, though. Shreks 1, 2, and 3.
Somebody once told me the world was gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the
I'm going to do it as a round. Keep
shed.
going.
She was
Somebody
looking
once told me
that must be
The shape of an
L
L on her forehead.
Well,
Wow. You know what I like about Shrek 2?
Tell me.
The villain fairy, the woman who's voiced by Jennifer Saunders, her boyfriend is named
the fairy godmother?
Yeah, her boyfriend is named Kyle. Which that's a fun thing. Like, it's okay. As Kyles, whenever we hear our names in movies, we get excited because it's not a name like John or even Andy or even Gerald, George, Geraldo. But like when there's a Kyle in a movie, it's fun, and it's usually like like in Shrek 2, it's kind of a joke because there's no Kyles in like
Medieval
fairy.
times.
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah. Edmund Cullen.
So, did you really like that movie, American Sniper? Because
I haven't seen it.
Then you'll really like that movie because the main character's name, Chris Kyle.
Hey, bitch, I got the Terminators, okay? Kyle Reese. Kyle Reese. Kyle Reese. He traveled back in time.
And forward, slowly.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
You
I
wanna-
think he just traveled forward.
If you want a movie where they travel back in time, Terminator Genesis.
No, I'm never going to watch
I know,
that.
that's a hard one to
Ever.
watch.
Why didn't they get Huey Lewis in the news to do a song for Tenet? And you go back in time.
Okay, whatever. Go watch Tenet. Don't. I don't care anymore.
You see-
I'm tired of talking about it. Everyone's like,
You know what, Gerardo? You're like toothpaste that fell on the floor because you're crestfallen.
Oh,
I just thought of that now.
You need a university degree to know what that one is.
have you heard of that guy? I'm just Googling this. Movie lover Craig Sharp has set out to screen Christopher Nolan's latest film, Tenet, up to 120 times to beat the record for seeing a movie the most times while it's in the first run at a theater. The current record is 108, and so far Sharp has seen the movie 19 times. This is from
Why? Okay, that buries the
Yo.
lead. Who saw another movie 108 times?
Yeah. There's no
Yeah,
stats on that.
this just says
Uh,
Craig
You have
Sharp.
to-
I
Maybe it's his
read
own
the rest of
record.
the- I have to read the rest of the article. They're all
Manitoba.
from-
He's from Manitoba. Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out Manitobans.
Go Manitoban.
Winnipeg.
You better win a peg.
Wonderful Winnipeg.
It's not called lose a peg.
Winnipeg has Sir Arthur Conan Doyle said Winnipeg has like an above average supernatural power because it's the center of everything. And the river with the
And they got that funky
And
human rights museum and
sleepwalking
cool Winnipeg co-op.
sleepwalking capital of the world, Winnipeg.
Yeah. There's even a cool YouTube channel. I think it's called Weird Winnipeg, and it's all like these kind of kooky public TV, public access TV shows and commercials that they shot in the early 80s.
Whoa.
Really interesting, cool stuff. Check it out.
Winnipeg's
Weird
no
Winnipeg.
joke.
Go Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Go Winnipeg Jets.
The only Canadian city weirder than Edmonton.
Our city was named after this gentleman right here.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
went back in time.
And why this bitch went back in time? He fucking teneted those.
He tenanted those namers.
Are we gonna talk about documentaries?
I'd
now?
like to.
I don't know. Are you guys good?
Hey,
I'm
Andy,
good.
you have any experience making any documentaries?
Yeah.
It's funny you should ask me that.
Oh,
Um,
can we grab
sure.
One of the posters? I'll hold it too. So that,
Yeah, sure. So I can talk about it and not have the.
sorry, I
distraction of
know the
holding-
audio people listening to the podcast can't really see the.
But
poster.
this is what the poster sounds
But
like.
we can do.
Ooh, poster ASMR.
If I was to describe the poster to those listening, it's a piece of paper with an image and words on it.
That's totally correct. You're not missing anything on anything, blind people.
Here.
This is a poster for a documentary film that I made with Edwin and Gerardo's help called The
So,
Line.
Andy, why did you want to do? Because as someone who really, really has always wanted to do fiction, what attracted you to doing a documentary?
That's a great question.
Excellent question. I think it was access. I had like access to this place, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I had an in with this group of people that I thought, oh, this is an interesting community. This is like a ragtag team of people. If we can get to know them, earn their trust, and get in there with cameras, then we'll have like special access to.
Oh, sorry, Andy.
And
Can
you
give,
felt compelled to like this is a story that needs to be told, or
Yeah. It's a story about second chances. It's a story about.
and we don't want to give too much away,
No.
obviously,
Yeah, I was
which
gonna-
is
I was
why
gonna
we're
say
talking
you
in
give a log
articulate
line.
terms right
Mhm.
now. But
And this poster.
I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to show people. This poster was made by Alan Wilson, the composer of the film, and
Oh.
he did a really great
You
job.
you haven't like an official composer?
Yeah, he's
You're
so
legit.
great. Oh, he's legit. Everybody
does
everybody
posters.
else is legit but me. It's the
You're pretty legit.
thank you.
I mean, you did have a DOP that's toothpaste on the floor.
It's true.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so documentaries, why documentaries? I don't know. They're doable. They're doable. You can do like a larger scale documentary for cheaper than you can do a larger scale fiction film. And it was just that access piece, just that I knew Kathy.
There's so much effort you have to put into. Like Gerardo used to, when you guys were shooting the documentary, like I kind of watched the line happen by osmosis from front to back, and it just sounded like so much work. And in film school we did a little bit of we did some documentary stuff, and it just sounds like
it is so much work, and so much is on the cutting room floor. It's like entire days. I mean, there's an entire day where we haven't used a single shot in the movie, and it's this day where we did a bunch of interviews. We interviewed some expert people in the movie, and ultimately in the edit decided that it just wasn't that interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the sad thing about documentaries too, is a lot gets left on the cutting room floor, and you may have had this person had a really interesting story, or like I really like this person off camera, but just doesn't work, right?
Sometimes you turn the cameras on and people like clam up a bit, and we definitely saw that happen.
The real god of cinema is the editor at the end of the day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's so true. One of my favorite filmmakers ever, and certainly one of my favorite documentarians, is this Canadian filmmaker named Alan King.
Oh,
yeah. And
the King of Canada.
The King of Canada. He's so great. And the reason I got into him is because we watched, maybe in a Canadian film class, or maybe something in the documentary one of his early great works. His first movie from 1967 was called Warrendale, and it takes place at this home for basically psycho kids, kids who are like insane and like disturbed and traumatized and just like actually psychotic and have to be restrained. And it was banned. Oh, sweet. It's
always cool when a Canadian movie is kind of edgy like that, you know?
Yes.
But like I remember when the Criterion channel released that, but you're describing the movie in somewhat politically incorrect terms. Like these are children with mental illnesses.
No, they're crazy.
Well, they're
You're right.
They're kids.
They're troubled
children.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's a really heartbreaking movie, and he got to know them, lived among them, lived with them. The crew lived at this home, so people got used to them. They even walked around the building with cameras on their shoulders and microphones in their hands, not recording, just to get people used to the idea.
Yeah.
They even did that before they started recording. And then when they recorded for like 3 weeks intensively. And Alan King wasn't there. He would actually just watch the dailies at the end of the day, and talk with the crew, who is very minimal, and so much was left on the cutting room floor. Like the vast majority of the movie was left on the cutting room floor. It was like, and things are completely out of order sequentially. The climax of the movie is one of the cooks dies, and everybody's reacting to that pain. That actually happened right away in filming. But so even though like there's a lot of editing choices being made and things are out of order, as they always are in movies, it doesn't have any narration. It has hardly any music, and it just patiently lives with the people. And it offers some like very interesting insights, because once people are used to the cameras, they actually can relax into their normal behavior, and you really see the sincerity in these people. It was banned on Canadian television because they have kids saying "fuck you, fucking die, you fucking fuck." And the second movie was called The Married Couple, and he just found a couple whose marriage was on the rocks, and he lived with them. Came out in 1973.
This is a movie.
Yeah, I remember one shot in that movie was a long shot with a zoom lens across a party, and the couple is sitting in the middle of this couch, and there are people of the opposite gender sitting on either side of them, and you just see it from a vast distance. I don't even know if you hear what they're talking about, but they're talking to the people. They're sort of flirting with the people on either side of them, but you can see that it's really about their relationship, and you see their fights, and you see why they're not communicating right. They're just going past each other, and it's frustrating and fascinating, and you're like, I don't know. It's also quite cringy, because you're witnessing this marriage fall apart, and people are being kind of passive aggressive to each other, and sometimes just controlling as hell. And you witness the kind of controlling, misogynistic man of that day, where it's like my way or the highway kind of thing.
That's a very powerful thing in documentaries, the discomfort, right? Because documentary in a lot of ways, it's very, if you look at most popular documentaries, they are a form of propaganda or agitprop in some way or another, right?
How?
Well, a lot of documentaries we see, or that are big documentaries, typically do have a political message of some sort, even if it's Thin Blue Line, Bowling for Columbine, Fahrenheit 9/11. Most of the big ones, or even something like Winged Migration, which is probably a fairly left-leaning environmental message, typically are a form of propaganda. Even you could even explore that in fiction too, right? So what cringe is really just another form of agitation. So
That's an interesting point.
can we talk about Grey Gardens now?
Go on. Yeah.
So none of you have seen Grey Gardens?
I've seen half
Shamefully
of
no.
it.
I've heard about it. Like a few years ago, they brought in this editor who was talking about her process and her kind of meta technique for editing. And one of the first examples that she mentioned was Grey Gardens. So, and we watched clips of it, but unfortunately, I still have to watch the entire
So
documentary.
I have a
but it was
follow-up
really good.
question. Why haven't you guys seen Grey Gardens?
Because I'm too busy watching Marvel movies.
It's so
Tenet.
It's so ridiculous. So premise is these somewhat renowned at the time documentarians had found out about these two women living in the Hamptons who happened to be related to Jacqueline Onassis. They're Jackie O's cousins. And had read through newspaper articles or whatever that they were living in not the best circumstances. So they did a documentary about them. And if you watch this documentary from start to end, it's hilarious. So it's, if a documentary would be a comedy, it's Grey Gardens. But it's complicated too, because we're not just making fun of these people. Throughout the whole movie, you do have this weird empathy with these women. So it's almost this Dickensian Shakespearean thing where it's, okay, they're related to Jackie O, the ex-wife of JFK, right? You can't get higher than that, right? And they're living in this weird form of abject poverty. They live in this mansion in the Hamptons, but are eating cat food and like living in squalor. They have no money. Like all their income is basically from rich relatives like Jackie O giving them money once in a while. It's this mother and daughter. And they're just such characters, right? Like the movie opens with the daughter describing she has these little pieces of cloth and all the different ways she wears them. So she's like, if you take a cloth and you do this, you can make it a nice little shawl. Or if I put it around here, I can turn it into a nice little sketch. And they all have that JFK, like upper New York accent. Like I can turn it into I have to think these things up. And just as the movie goes, it's like it just gets crazier and crazier. Where at one point, like she's putting cat food around the house, like not in the yard, like in the house. And then at one point, a raccoon comes out from the wall and like grabs the cat food and pulls it back in. And it's just like, well, there's raccoon. Well, we got to feed and then you just imagine like they probably had a conversation. Well, stop feeding the raccoons. But it's like, no, there's raccoons living in the attic. And this is a person was 2 degrees separation away from the president of the United States. And they're living in this mansion in poverty. It's just nuts.
Wow.
It's just nuts.
Cool.
And it's a weird movie where it's delivered with such humor, but such sensitivity too, where you do feel for and love these two people. But and there's so many parts too where it's like, why don't you just clean up? So
Yeah.
watch Grey Gardens.
Did you feel that something was wrong mentally?
Oh yeah, the fucking clearly. Like, it's a weird thing too of when they were younger, they were somewhat affluent. They were super wealthy, much wealthier than anyone here in this room, right? Where it was just like generations and generations and generations of wealth. And they give little hints to the story as to how they became poor. And part of it was just like, no, I'm just going to go back to the house. I'm not going to work. We're not going to work. We're happy. We have a house that's paid for. That's really all you need. And it's just bizarre.
Wow, like this movie that Edmund's thinking about.
Oh yeah, sorry Kyle, but yeah, I really appreciate that discussion of Grey Gardens because it reminded me of another film that came out much later in 2012 called The Queen of Versailles, and it's basically about this couple. One gentleman's older and his wife is a few decades younger, and they at one point they owned like one of the world's largest timeshare companies in the world, and the movie was filmed kind of in the late 2000s, especially like 2008 when the U.S. was going through a huge economic decline.
Because of
So-
the housing market,
Yeah,
right?
and
Like,
kind of the big irony is it's called the Queen of Versailles because this powerful timeshare couple with their timeshare empire, at one point they were building the largest private U.S. residence, and that's why they call it the Queen of Versailles, because they wanted something that would be bigger and would rival the Palace of Versailles in France. But as the U.S. Economic collapse happens in 2008, their timeshare empire also goes into decline and evaporates. And so you see them, you follow them on their journey of building their house, but they have to, kind of change their plans. Then you can probably figure out what happens by the end, but their house doesn't look like the Palace of Versailles. And it starts off, they're living a very lavish life, and by the end of the film, they're shopping at Walmart just like everyone else, trying to save a buck. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of Grey Gardens, right? Where this is a family that had a very lavish life, a beautiful mansion, and then over time they lose their fortune and have economic decline. But at
they're
least,
almost like ghosts.
yeah, and then their mansion falls into disrepair and becomes derelict. But at least they still have each other, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the
that's
film,
that's the
Same thing
feeling
with
of
Queen
Grey
Versailles.
Gardens too, and
Yeah.
it's through most of the movie, the mom and the daughter are fighting, but it's still a weird but at least they have each other, right? Like this is a very strong bond, and if you look at it, it's like, well, really, they have a house. They have them. They have the raccoons. Like they have, and there's parts where she plays her record too. And there's a few really sweet moments where you can tell they've been sad for a while, and then Mother Darling, a documentarian wants to do a movie about us. And so they play up a few things. She does this like kind of majorette dance for the cameras, and she's just like thrilled. Like she hasn't had this much fun in years, just doing her little like majorette dance in front of the camera. And she says to the documentarian, like, "Where have you been all my life?" Like it's just such a cute example of someone who's just happy that there's someone interested in them. You know,
It's kind of an allegory for our kind of COVID pandemic lockdown reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, a lot of us around the table have been laid off or have had great changes in our lives, but at least we still have a roof over our head. We still have friends. We still have family. Fortunately, we still have our health. Shouldn't that be, like true happiness in life rather than having the latest, greatest thing or object or whatever? Just be happy with what you have, right?
yeah.
But it's not sometimes,
Oh,
because I say that
Okay.
I say that because I watched half of Grey Gardens on Kyle's recommendation, and it was during the pandemic, and it was during lockdown. I couldn't go anywhere, and part of me watching it was really sad. I was like, oh, these poor women, they don't know that there's like a whole world out there that's like waiting to be lived in. And again, yes, they're like 2 degrees of separation away from like one of the biggest families in American culture. And part of me was like sad at that. But then as Kyle said, when they have that little moment of dancing and their attention is on them, they're like, whoa, They're like really happy in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, when's the last time I just danced because I was feeling the music or love
Well,
that?
well, the
She
thing
has
is-
like a little swimsuit on and an American flag, and she says, "We
Right.
all march together."
Yeah, well, you know, like, do you remember when the lockdown first happened, and then for some reason, I don't know about you guys, but every other person on my Facebook was, you know, filming with their cell phone or webcam, and giving
Yeah.
out live concerts, whether it was music or reading. There's this woman who would read like from a book and live stream it every night, and then people were doing dances. They're
She's
like, oh yeah,
reading
don't worry,
this
this lockdown is
catalog.
okay. I'll entertain you all. I have my cell phone here. I'll start playing some music or dancing or whatever to entertain you.
That's when you got the OnlyFans account, and
Yeah.
I just,
I saw him wrote and I saw him Aya. Great Gardens. Here's a weird thing about it too is my mom. Like I thought when I discovered Great Gardens, it was like this special thing that only I knew about. And then my mom, independent of me, said, "I saw this movie, Great Gardens," and it's like, yeah, I've seen that movie, right? And then my boyfriend years later, have you seen Great Gardens? It's like, yeah, I've seen Great Gardens. And he actually, one night we watched, because it's one of those movies like The Shining, I watch every year. Great Gardens, The Shining, Wizard of Oz, I watch it every year, right? And we're watching it one time, and Edie says, "I was discovered by Mr. Gordon at the..." And Neil did a little painting of that quote, I was discovered by Mr. Gordon, and framed it and put it on our wall. So it's one of those movies where there's such a sentimentality to it in a weird way.
yeah.
Well, the film itself like makes you feel like you're looking at something unique. Like, oh,
Well-
look at this side of the Onassis
And
family.
it's
who didn't know.
it's almost vaguely macabre, you know, like it's again very Dickensian. Like they're living in this derelict house. They're almost kind of ghosts, and they tell memories about themselves. And
Do you feel that like documentaries, like a good documentary, does that? Make you feel that specific way? Like
a good documentary is just like any other movie. It entertains you. I feel like we try to over-intellectualize documentaries. We say this movie has to make you think. I don't think necessarily that's true. Gimme Shelter. It made me think a little bit, but from beginning to back, I was entertained and moved by it.
Yeah, Michael Moore movies are like an essay.
Well, he's almost in his own other category of vague political tabloid gotcha documentary. And not to denigrate him, I think he is a great filmmaker and has done a lot for documentaries, but he's almost his own kind of thing, separate of other cinema.
But he does kind of typify something of what we think documentaries are nowadays. Like, there's so many documentarians who worked in that style for years after Bowling for Columbine came out. Like the next big documentary after that was Super Size Me.
Yeah.
And well, that didn't have a political bent. It was, I don't know.
Well, if you, it did, frankly. Like if you look at it, it is very what is McDonald's but a supply side, right? Like if you look at it that way, it is somewhat, just because it's not as obvious I'm going to attack the president. McDonald's does clearly represent a right-leaning ethos to consumerism, and he does represent a backlash to that.
The movie The Founder was like a fictional, scathing critique of McDonald's as well. And I don't know which of the two does a better job of criticizing McDonald's. I think that in that way, like our documentaries don't always necessarily make more convincing arguments for changing our behavior, which I think a lot of documentaries try to do, and that's a fine thing to try to do.
Well, not necessarily changing our behavior, changing our mind.
Yeah, changing our minds.
When it came out, there was a lot of backlash about Super Size Me, and Roger Ebert said, all these people are saying, "Oh, McDonald's isn't that bad," and he said, "I don't think the point of the movie is McDonald's is bad. I think the point of the movie is we need to look at what we're eating in this country." And that is what the movie's about. It's not just McDonald's is bad.
Yeah.
It's we need to look at what we're eating in this country. So
Isn't that part of it to imply, thus change your behavior and how you consume? Thus, to Andy's point,
Yeah.
well,
change your
sure, why
behavior?
not? But
Yeah.
I really feel first a documentary is to change our mind, right? Like Thin Blue Line, that literally changed a ruling in a murder, right? Like that's the ultimate example of power of cinema. Literally, someone was on death row. Someone did a documentary and now he's free, and now someone else is on death row.
Good thing the release wasn't delayed.
Yeah.
Yo.
Errol Morris is the fucking man.
Yes.
Have you seen have y'all seen Gates of Heaven, which is on the Criterion channel? See, that's the documentary.
I've heard that movie's like a near-death experience.
Okay, so Gates of Heaven, not to be
How so?
Just because
not
of
to
the
be
name.
not to be confused with Heaven's Gate.
I was like, now I want to watch it.
So Gates of Heaven by Errol Morris. So that is such a beautiful example of that may almost be in my top 10. It's such a simple, sweet, it's so many different slices of life. So
Side
it
note,
starts
we
at-
should actually do top 10 one day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be
yeah,
tough.
that'd be fun.
Go ahead, continue on.
Because you know what my top one's going to be. Weekend at Bernie's too. Gates of Heaven. It's a documentary about a pet cemetery. The Gates of Heaven, right?
Oh, wow.
A pet cemetery, right? And already you know, like, oh, that's going to be tearjerker, right? So, there's a little subplot too about a rendering factory, and I believe the initial premise of the movie is about they're going to move the pet cemetery or something. But as the movie goes, it almost does this weird meandering thing where the movie's not about the pet cemetery, it's about the people, and then it starts delving into people's lives separate of the pet cemetery. So he's interviewing this one woman who was talking about the pet cemetery or the rendering factory. And then she starts going off on a tangent about her son. And then she starts going off on this funny tangent about her son's wife. And then she starts going off on these more tangents, which have nothing to... And she talks for like 10 minutes, like me. About her son and her son's wife, and it's hilarious, and it just has nothing to do with the movie at all. But just Errol Morris said, this is such a funny little piece of cinema. I'm going to keep this in the movie, and he keeps the whole thing in the movie. And just the rest of the movie kind of feel like by the end of it, it's not even about the pet cemetery. It's just about the Gates of Heaven, right? So
Wow.
I believe that movie's in Roger Ebert's top 10.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Roger Ebert. Errol Morris invented the Interrotron.
Yeah,
There's like a camera behind a screen.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to me,
Why couldn't he just like point the camera at and then just sit a little bit by?
that's what everyone did for so long. But then it looks like your eyes, like if I'm talking to you, I'm like looking at the window there.
Couldn't you just like sit behind the camera and just say, pretend I'm the camera?
That's too awkward. That's not natural.
Is it?
Less natural than
people are
TV.
intimidated by cameras too, right?
Yeah,
When they
Kyle,
see
you don't
People are
film
intimidated
humans.
by people asking you questions, though.
And staring into an Interrotron.
Yeah. Like,
No, it's way better. It's a good idea, and it's worked. His movies, they're always looking right at you, and okay, take my soul.
I like that. I like that better than the 3/4 forensic files like angle.
Yeah, you're just askant.
They found semen on the ceiling.
It's like you're about to break into song. You're just looking into the light. At first, I was afraid.
I was petrified.
Edmund, documentaries, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Sure. I find them very appealing and enlightening, and I always learn something new. But of course, I don't know. The best documentary, in my humble opinion, is probably Samsara. It's one of those documentaries where there's not exactly a plot or even dialogue. All you hear is music, and then you have kind of a mix of vignettes of nature, beautiful historical sites, industry, and ritual, like all one after the other. Now there's no real narrative. There's no plot. As I mentioned, there's no dialogue, but it's all seamless and kind of the themes is at the opening of or not really the opening, but throughout the film, there are scenes of this Buddhist temple where they're making a mandala with these beads, where they meticulously lay out these beads one by one, and it might be kind of allegorical for how the documentary is composed, right? You have all these different scenes of nature and humanity being laid out. Is there a certain order? I don't know. That's for the viewer to draw a conclusion. But by the end of the film, spoiler alert, something happens to that beautiful mandala made up of thousands of beads. That everything, like time, everything passes, right? So probably one of the most beautiful documentary, and that's the one that really got me involved into film making. I started with a kind of a screenwriting workshop and really wanted to learn more about the visual elements. So tens of thousands of dollars later and years later, Samsara, and of course the precursor films, Baraka, which came out more than about 20 years before.
And the OG.
The Quatsi trilogy.
Koyana Squatsi.
Kuyana Squatsi. Great films. And
I've
check
only
out
seen
Chronos too.
Koyana Squatsi.
That's the one to see. The other two are okay. But yeah.
That movie really made time lapse where it's at.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Check it out, guys.
Yeah.
There's two versions of Samsara.
Oh, right. Yeah.
No, there's actually not two
I
versions.
think there's like some
like
sort
another
of live action film, but unrelated.
Yeah.
You want to watch Samsara?
And that one came out first. 2001, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read the log lines of both so you don't get confused. Samsara 2001, the one that came out first, not the documentary. A spiritual love story set in the majestic landscape of Ladakh in the Himalayas.
Ooh.
Samsara is a
cool.
quest, one man's struggle to find spiritual enlightenment by renouncing the world.
Ooh.
One
And-
man's struggle to find spiritual
man.
enlightenment
Ooh.
by renouncing the world.
Now, what's the synopsis of Koyana Squatsi?
No, I'm going to read Samsara, the real one.
Okay.
So it came out 2011.
Mhm.
Really? That feels really recent.
Yeah, 9 years ago.
Whoa, okay.
Almost 9 years ago.
It's actually quite a good small synopsis. So Samsara 2011, the one that Edmund was talking about.
Mhm. I love that
documentary.
film. I have 3 copies of that film on Blu-ray.
And one on
Because sometimes-
Betamax.
Only 3?
Well, yeah, only 3. I want to get a 4th one. It's one of those movies where if I see it, right, I'll give it to other people as a gift.
Oh,
That's really sweet.
And then,
Wow.
sorry, I haven't given you. Got
None of
you.
us.
Wow.
None of us.
Given me
Have you
any-
guys
Wow.
Any of your copies of Evil Dead 2?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
I forgot to bring it. I was really busy today.
Samsara 2001. Filmed over nearly 5
2011.
years in 25 countries on 5 continents.
Wow.
That's not even the end of the first sentence. It gets better. And shot on 70 millimeter film. Let's go.
A millimeter for you, and a millimeter for you, a millimeter for everybody.
But was it shot in 8K?
Actually, a higher resolution.
How many
70
DX?
70 millimeter is a higher resolution than even 8K.
12K?
Tear me
No,
apart.
Samsara
Arby's excited.
transports us
That's right.
to very worlds of sacred grounds, disaster zones, industrial complexes, and natural wonders.
So it's Koyana Squatsi Light.
Yes.
That's right. I said it. Come
Wow.
at me.
Shots fired.
Did Philip Glass do the soundtrack for this?
No,
I'm not
Hans
too sure.
Zimmer.
If you can't do Philip Glass, then kiss my ass.
That's worth noting because I super love that soundtrack. So we're going to play a bit of it right
Play a
now.
bit of it.
Mhm.
What you're about to listen to is from Koyana Squatsi,
Kuyana
soundtrack.
Squatsi.
made by
Philippe.
Philip Bloom Glass.
Phil. As his
Phil,
friends call him.
Philzy.
Phil the Glass.
Philip Bloom Glass.
Philip the Glass.
John Waters.
A glass
Toilet
half
water.
fill.
Ending scene's good. The soundtrack for that's good. Just play that.
Oh,
Kind of sounds like Interstellar.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I don't think it's in the shot. I think you're holding it out.
And Koyaanisqatsi means a world out of balance.
I
Cool.
think isn't it an indigenous term?
I don't know.
I think it is.
Like, I think it's African indigenous.
Ooh. Let's get. I'm gonna try to fast forward to some of the chanting.
This is the good part. No,
Oops,
you're
sorry,
playing
I
over the
didn't- I
good
didn't-
parts.
I didn't mean to click that. Oh, that's nice. This is what Edmund wakes up to.
It's
every
almost like
morning.
John Carpenter, right? Like, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys want to make love to music, make sure it's this song.
I only fuck to the Are You Afraid of the Dark theme. We've established this. From the Hopi language. Crazy life in
This is the only song I know the words to.
Scotsy.
Dies slowly. Yeah, that's a great.
Are we gonna karaoke
Doc
that
recommendation.
sometime? You're always writing things and pointing at them with your middle finger at me.
Well, Edmund just showed me a headline. I'm sorry to break onto this tangent, but Latinos watching the debates tonight between Trump and Biden. I'm sorry to bring their names.
Did they make love?
66% of Latino.
Did he say
viewers.
malarkey?
They thought Trump won by 2/3.
Yeah, like that's. I'm sorry. If you run a potato, here's the thing. I don't want to get political as someone who's.
Can
very,
we not? Not now.
Why
not
are they
here.
making so many?
Shut the
they're
fuck
making
up. We're
so
not doing
many
this right
fucking
now.
mistakes.
We're not doing this.
So
This is
many
not
mistakes.
a documentary about their current state. I want to talk about documentaries about film.
Maybe we should talk about political.
He's the
films.
guy who brought it up.
Early November episode.
I'd be down for that. But now, what in October in Alberta right now does this concern us about?
Well,
Why bring this up
the
now?
president has his button on the nukes, so I think it concerns everyone on the planet.
Okay.
But maybe this should
Go
be a
ahead.
safe
ahead.
Squatsy.
a Trump
Go
free
ahead.
No,
space.
I don't even give a shit.
Yeah, okay.
I'll play Koyaanisqatsi and you guys can talk about it.
Let's make this a safe zone. No politics here.
No, politics are allowed.
Why don't you play the Care Bears theme? Well, what are some political documentaries? Winged migration. Those birds had no right.
Okay, go ahead. So what did you say about Trump, Andy?
I said that.
You love Trump, Andy?
What?
I heard it here first.
I knew it.
To the viewers who are listening, he's got a mega hat on.
Take that off, please.
Take
No, I
that
won't
off.
do it. It's my
That's
god
offense.
off my cold dead head.
Cold.
Okay.
That was such a simpler time, wasn't it? Where it's like we just had to worry about rocks getting sad. Like, I wish I could go back to the 1980s where it's like, oh, tall buildings are making the rocks sad. Everything's time lapse. It's so sad.
Oh wow.
This is what we're watching. Sad robots. Sad
Oh.
robots. Aren't we all just sad robots?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh no. Symbolism?
montage.
It's a building falling down. The squats. You know, this song would be perfect if they got rid of the chanting guy. Like he makes it so camp.
It's probably
Ah.
like sung in their traditional indigenous form.
They could
and you
get-
just destroyed that. So,
Good.
congratulations.
You know, if they got rid of his voice, that would be an excellent John Carpenter theme song.
Oh, it's super weird though and cool.
That's probably just full of glass after he had too many cigarettes. Look at my turtleneck.
Have you fellas seen the movie Voyage of Time?
Voyage of Time.
Yes.
Yeah, good. It's like the Terrence Malick's follow-up movie to The Tree of Life.
All right.
Is
yes,
it a
I've seen that film.
documentary?
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's
Beautiful.
50 minutes, IMAX, made with some of the same footage from The Tree of Life, and then it's a nature documentary.
Mhm.
And
it's all those weird scenes from Tree of Life.
Yeah, the
Just
evolution
made
of
it
life
into-
on Earth, and it's about life.
It's true.
Weird.
Sorry.
scene.
What'd
I
you
don't
say?
mean to-
I feel like
they
we're
take
killing
all the
Gerard.
scenes from Tree of Life, like all the weird ones, and then they just
Wait,
put it
why were
into
they
a
weird?
Documentary.
Why were they weird, Edmund?
Because they were shot on 69 millimeter.
And they had this one moment in that movie where they're showing the evolution of life, and it got me to rethink the way that I think about evolution. And they have this one shot in particular. Beautiful poetic narration read by either Kate Blanchett or Brad Pitt, depending on which version of the movie you see. And we're watching these animals compete and die and evolve, and we see so many images in other nature documentaries and in this one of the ruthlessness of nature. It's the battering waves against the shore and animals eating animals. And then out of nowhere, there's this shot of a mother whale. And she's swimming this way. She's up this way. Her head's at the top, her tail's at the bottom. She's vertical. And she's swimming with her belly to a much smaller whale, presumably the calf. And the calf's head is down here. And they're just chilling there. And it's framed vertically. And you're like, whoa, this just jogs you out of this frenzy of evolution as this like competitive thing. And then the narration just says, isn't love too an act of nature?
Wow.
Oh.
It's flooring.
Documentary. I think we talked about it before. Tony Kaye's Lake of Fire about the abortion debate.
Yeah.
The director of American History X, he did I think it took a decade to
I
make
think so.
a documentary about abortion, and no documentary, as much as they claim it, no documentary is objective. They're almost always if you're looking at something, that act is subjective. But this movie, I think, as far as a movie about the abortion debate, has come the closest to trying to be as objective as possible. We're not going to take a side. We're going to film the extreme of both. We're going to film the middle of both. We're going to film the absolute middle. We're not like that movie he really tried. I'm going to do a 100% objective movie. I'm not going to take a side. And he has said in interviews, I don't think it's true, but I think he said I still have not decided about abortion or not. That movie is so powerful.
Yes.
And there's a super powerful moment in that movie where it's like, if I was a documentarian, I wish I could have a moment like that. And it's one of those moments too, like the whales, where it's like, you didn't direct that, God directed that. Where it's a woman who's getting an abortion, and she's in a lot of states, you're given like a questionnaire before you do it. Like, you can't just get an abortion. They have to ask you all these questions, right? And so she's in a state where clearly that's the case, and she has to answer all these questions. And the woman asking her the questions is clearly very sympathetic. And somehow she gets onto her past relationships. And the woman getting the abortion brings up that she was abused by a previous boyfriend, and she says, just leave them after they hit you the first time. and then like gets teary-eyed, and it's like the most powerful piece of cinema I've ever seen. Maybe more powerful than anything in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, it's just so powerful. Like, she just, and it's that actually happened. That was a part where the director didn't make it happen. God made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's documentary.
Yeah.
Capturing something that you had no control over.
Yeah.
That just happened. Like the whale and the calf, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Magic.
Do you feel that that's also possible in fiction?
Well, I don't know. That's a very complicated question, because even though we try to control something, it's not necessarily under our control.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a lot of fiction and felt like I was never in control.
So in a way, isn't that kind of like documentary?
Yeah. I never looked at myself as a documentarian, but when I described my nightmare series to Yarrow, actually, I said, "Oh, I film people's nightmares." He's like, "Oh, so it's a documentary." And I thought, like, I never looked at it that way, but I guess it kind of is, because like
it's a reenactment.
It's a reenactment of like something that. Well, nightmares are weird too, because that's a weird example of something that actually happened but didn't happen at all. It's a weird confluence.
But it is your true mind.
Yeah, so it's something that, and also something that the person who had the dream wasn't party to at all. They didn't have a choice to have it happen. So it's a weird, like, it's not fiction. It's not a documentary.
Right. Yeah, you both didn't write it, and you totally wrote it.
Yeah.
Blurring that line.
I feel like Edmund and Gerardo are going full Terry Schiavo on us right now.
Sorry, it's been a
Terry
long day. I've
Schiavo
been
was
up
that
since
woman
5
who was
a.m.
like in a coma, and she was like
and she wanted to.
She didn't want to do anything. She was brain dead.
Well, I'm just saying, didn't
But
she
they
want that?
Lazy.
they wanted to, she was like a right to life or right to die icon, because she was brain dead, and they were going to take her off life support.
Oh, no.
And whenever someone's really tired, I say, oh, they're going full Terry Schiavo.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Terry Schiavo's family out who may
And
be listening.
fans.
And fans.
It's pretty heartless.
Fans?
Yeah, I was just gonna
She
say.
opened up the debates. I don't know.
I haven't seen Lake of Fire, but I have a stolen copy of the DVD.
Oh, you're going into the Lake of Fire.
Wait, what?
I'll tell you what happened.
You stole a movie.
No, I didn't say I stole it.
You wouldn't steal
I'm
a
just saying
car.
I
You
have
wouldn't
stolen-
steal a bicycle.
You wouldn't pirate a DVD and upload it.
Yes, I would.
What did you do?
Well, I think
Hold
what
my
happened
hand.
is I used to work 10 years ago. I used to work at a place that worked with high risk youth. So
You could have paid for a movie.
I
could have had a gainful employment.
I know what happened is I think like someone had stolen a copy, and then when I was clearing out my office, like because I always brought movies for the youth to watch, it was a drop-in center for high risk youth. So
You brought That's such an Edmund thing.
Yeah,
like you
and
worked with
stole for
high
the
risk
kids.
youth and you brought movies for
yeah,
them.
like
That's
I even donated a
that's Edmund
DVD player.
in a nutshell. And he donated a DVD.
Well, you know, it was really old at the time, right? And slow, and they had a DVD player,
It was
but
a
it
really
wasn't
shitty
very
one,
good.
actually.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I had a collection of movies, and I think there's like a backpack like full of stolen stuff, and then one of them was this Lake of Fire DVD, and I had no clue what it was. Other
You're
than
like,
it was a
yoink.
documentary, and then I think like no one ever claimed the backpack. It was just full of random stuff and junk, and then I'm like, maybe I should watch this Lake of Fire documentary. And return it to the library. I still have to watch it, but I do plan on returning the Lake of Fire DVD to the Edmonton
They're
Public
not going to
Library.
take it back.
Yeah, I know it's been like 10
Like
years, but
you
maybe
understand. I think wasn't there's
Like a
another
statute
movie
of
you have from
limitation.
the library too.
Right? Yeah, that one I have
And
to.
it's like
return.
that's not how it works.
Stalker.
It's not like you just return it and they're like, okay,
Thank you.
everything. Like, do you have tapes too? Because let me tell you, they're not going to take those
He's
back.
got 35 millimeter print of Stalker.
That's quite valuable. I think they'd be quite happy if they got that.
Well, you know, people still have DVD players. Not everyone has a Blu-ray
No, but
player. and,
they're not going to take that back.
maybe they're short on copies. We're living in the era
When was the
of,
last time you went to the library?
Oh, maybe 2011.
Because of this?
Yeah,
To get Samsara out of the library.
that's why I buy a lot of movies. these days.
Edmund, if I went to the library with you, like, I could sort this all out for you.
Okay, cool. Can you come
Like,
with me?
yeah, I'll come with you. Because if you're ashamed, I'll go up to the counter with you and say, look, my friend has movies from way long ago. I'll pay for the movies, like the replacement fee, if it just says you can go back into the Edmonton Public Library. I'll go with you. Do you want me to go with you? I'll go with you to the library.
Maybe. Okay.
If it's that late, they do put a sticker over your forehead for the first
they're like-
visit saying shame.
The librarian throws off her glasses. No, bitch. And like these bars come down.
Solitary confinement.
Okay. With
The
the, fine and
Punisher
the
comes out and
compound
fucking
interest,
rapes him
that will
with
be
a tattoo
$2,000.
machine.
But anyways, yeah. Enough about long overdue movies and stolen
Yeah,
movies
enough
from the Edmonton
about
Public
crimes you
Library. So
committed.
if anyone's listening, I do plan on returning Lake of Fire.
No, he doesn't.
Stolen
Edmonton
DVD
Public
and
Library. I'll pay the replacement fee for Edmund.
Can we add EPL in the show notes?
Sure.
I think the Stalker was a Kino release, so it's
It
probably
doesn't.
one of those
It's probably
pricier
like
ones.
it's like $30. I'll pay it,
It'll be okay, Edmund.
and
You'll
then
be-
we'll go to the library together. We'll get a
Alright.
coffee.
That's cute.
We'll look at their DVDs.
You can do some woodworking now there,
We'll
apparently.
do. I'm not gonna do.
Through 3D
You can play video
printing.
games?
We'll look at
Yeah.
the
Have you
3D
been to the new
printer.
No, I've just seen the video tour. It looks
one?
amazing.
But I used to get all my movies from the library.
See,
at
that's
one point.
that would be like a cute little documentary. Like Edmund is afraid to go to the library because he has these like fees, and I'd go with him.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll let us film in there?
Let's just go guerrilla style.
Oh yeah. The city of Edmonton is super film friendly.
That's right. Andy can attest to that,
Well,
or maybe not.
I can speak to it. I wouldn't say that they're extremely film friendly.
Was it always the city of Edmonton, or was it other bureaucracies?
The city of Edmonton, in particular, on our documentary about their waste facilities, were pretty.
Well, you're dealing with people's garbage. Come on, what do you expect?
Yeah, garbage.
Literally and figuratively.
Don't spoil it.
Hey,
Watch
listen.
the line.
You know, Circle of Life, all that film that ended on the cutting room floor, it's going to go to the line. Because that's literally how you made the movie. You cut it.
You did. Gents, closing remarks on the documentary genre.
We all have to come up with movie recommendations. I think Gerardo's going
good.
to recommend we all kill ourselves.
Since this podcast will be releasing a day after the premiere of Anthony's film,
Yeah.
why not, whoever is listening, we could suggest them go to the second screening.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Would you like to give those details, Anthony?
Sure. Great plug time. So our premiere screening is on October 3rd at 3 p.m. And this theater is at a much reduced capacity. And also, it's a friends and family screening, so it is unfortunately sold out. But there are still passes available to the October 10th screening. That's
Yes.
the Saturday following this Saturday. It's also at 3 p.m. Tickets are pay what you can. The money goes to Camp Pickaway and it's going to be a fun time.
Describe what Camp Pickaway is.
It's the houseless community in the heart of our city. It's in the Rossdale Flats, which is traditional territory used by Indigenous people for eons, and then the original site of the Fort Edmonton. And so the land that they're on is symbolic. They are on what used to be the overflow parking lot for Telus Field. Is it called something else now? We just got a new baseball team. It's anyway
Field.
Kudo Field.
Kudo Field.
And it's a collection. It's of people who don't have places to live. And there's a bunch of tents down there, and it's getting mighty cold. So Black Lives Matter Edmonton is running it or helping administer it. They're always doing clothing drives and feeding people, and they always need supplies. If you follow them on Instagram, they give a list every few days of the supplies that they need, clothing, lots of food. Anyway, there's just a lot of really wonderful people helping out down there, and it's also an exciting thing to me politically because it's like a collectivizing of homeless people, and it's already pushing the government to act more aggressively on helping solve the problem of homelessness in our city. Mayor Iveson tabled a bill to buy some old hotel space and apartment spaces to house people over the winter, and I think it's going through. I haven't followed up on that, but I don't know. It's just cool. It's like in Vancouver, because all of the drug users were, not all, but there's a huge concentration of drug users on the downtown east side. They too formed a political lobbying group. They even have their own acronym, VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users. Not friends of drug users, not recovered addicts, but like drug users, active people with addictions and stuff. And they helped get laws passed there where they got injection sites opened, places that save thousands of lives every year. And here in Edmonton, I have this excitement at what a concentration of people with similar needs can do politically for themselves and others. We'll see what happens. Anyway, that was a long spiel about Camp Peckaway. It's Cree for coming home.
Oh,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, October 10th.
That's very sweet.
And,
probably put a link in the show notes.
Well, will it premiere online at some point?
It will at some point, yeah. It'll be on TELUS Optic TV for all of those TELUS heads out there.
I have to ask, the length of the movie lends itself to, could this not be a Nature of Things broadcast?
Yeah, that'd be so amazing.
Is that something you've explored?
Not that much. I mean, we're barely finished the post-production process.
It sounds a lot more interesting than geese.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to show you. Thanks. Yeah, I can't wait. And still passes left for October 10th.
I'm excited for the Q&A. Me and Edmund are going to be in rare form that night, aren't we, Edmund?
And Gerardo's mom is going to be at the October 10th screening.
THX. I get to meet Doris.
Yeah.
Are your sisters going to be there?
My sister.
Aren't you excited? I've never had a premiere of this scale before. Aren't you excited? Have you had a premiere of this scale before?
No.
Aren't you excited?
Yes.
I know you're really tired and getting
I'm not that tired.
I just want to go home.
I'm good.
Fuck the gay one and the Filipino.
Or they can fuck each other.
Well, but you must be excited. You must both be excited as the director and the director of the record button. I just choked.
And on that note, thank you everyone for joining. Wrong sound effect. There it is. Let's wrap it up. I don't even care about film recommendations this week. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Grey Gardens.
We'll just have that.
See Grey Gardens.
Yeah.
Grey Gardens.
Just talk about.
I'm gonna see Grey Gardens.
Just like this whole episode has been. Just say whatever you think out loud.
The
at
Care
any point,
Bears
very
movie.
High volume. Just keep going. Go ahead.
Baba
Just whatever
Booey.
you want.
Baba Booey.
There you go. There's your recommendations. Thank you everybody for joining us for episode 6. It has been a lovely time. Catch you in episode
Are those supposed
7.
to be crickets? That
Aren't
sounds
you
like a
supposed to do
like a rusty
music at the
seesaw.
end of it?
They're pretty rusty.
They're laughing, lasering, shooting each other, playing the wind chimes.
This feels like Mother right now.
Good night, everybody. Good night.